My ex emailed, "I'm sorry for everything. Please give me another chance." I replied, "Message received." Then I forwarded it to her fiancé with context. 20 minutes later, she was calling me screaming about revenge. It was 2:47 a.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months, Laura. My stomach turned. I sat up, rubbed the sleep from my eyes, and unlocked the phone. One new email. No subject. I tapped it open. It was long, poetic, rambling, desperate, like a journal entry that was never supposed to be read. She called me the one who got away 3 times, claimed she was haunted by the salt air and the echo of my boots on the cabin floor. It would have been beautiful if it hadn't come from the same woman who used that cabin floor to screw her yoga instructor while I was 300 miles offshore counting whale songs. 8 months. That's how long it had been since I'd found out. Since I came home early from a 2-week research trip and saw Ben's shoes by the door and his car parked crooked on the gravel like he was in a hurry to get inside. I didn't make a scene then. Just walked back to the truck, drove to my buddy Jonah's place, and never looked back. Until tonight. Lara's email went on and on. She said she'd been drunk, that it didn't mean anything, that Ben was just a distraction, that she still had the copy of the key because it made her feel close to me. She ended with, "I know I don't deserve it, but if you ever think about me, even once, please just let me know. Please." I stared at the screen for a long minute. My thumb hovered over the reply button. I typed 2 words. Message received. Then I hit forward, added one address, nolanrivera27@gmail.com, and typed a quick note above the thread. "Hi Nolan. Thought you should have full context. Best, Alex." Sent. Then I put the phone face down and got up to grab a glass of water. I wasn't mad. Not anymore. I wasn't heartbroken either. This wasn't about revenge or some grand performance. It was about facts. Laura wanted to be heard. Now she would be. By the man she was about to marry. And he deserved to hear it straight from the source. I stood in the kitchen for a while, listening to the hum of the fridge and the low crash of waves in the distance. My little cabin still smelled faintly of cedar and salt. Peaceful, the way it used to feel before it became her stage. Back then, I would have done anything for Laura. I thought love meant sacrifice, forgiveness, patience. Now I know better. Love without respect is just a slow death. That email? It wasn't a lifeline. It was the opening act of the next storm. But this time, I'd be ready. The first call came less than 30 minutes after I had sent. I let it ring. Then came the second, third. By the fourth one, I picked up. "You son of a bitch." Lara's voice shrieked through the line, raw and jagged. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned against the counter, one hand still on my coffee mug. "You emailed me. I forwarded it. You knew what that would do." She screamed. "You knew he'd leave. He packed up everything, Alex. Everything. He's not even answering my texts." I took a sip, the bitter warmth grounding me. "Maybe because he read your texts. The ones to me. The ones you weren't supposed to send if you didn't want him to know who you really are." There was silence. Then a sharp, shaky inhale. "I was drunk. It didn't mean anything," she said, her voice suddenly small. "I didn't even remember sending it until I checked my outbox this morning." I said nothing. "You didn't have to show him. You could have just ignored it. Or told me to back off. But no, you had to make it a thing. You had to destroy my life." "That's funny," I said quietly, "because I remember you doing the same thing to mine. In my cabin, with my key." A long pause. "Then, it was a mistake. I told you that." "Yeah," I said. "And I told you I'd never forget it." She let out a loud breath, almost a sob, then quickly shifted back to rage. "You always do this. You act like you're the saint, the logical one, but you're vindictive. You're cold, Alex. You don't even care how much you hurt people. You're upset because someone finally held a mirror up," I said. "You begged me to respond." I did. Another beat of silence. Then her voice cracked. "I was going to marry him, Alex. He was good to me. He didn't know everything. You didn't have to ruin it." "No," I said. "But you did." She hung up. I stared at the screen for a moment, then tapped it off. I knew Laura. This wasn't the end of it. She was the kind of person who didn't just break things. She rewrote history to justify the pieces. And now that Nolan was out, I knew exactly where her energy would go next. Me. She wasn't angry because I betrayed her. She was angry because I didn't keep her secret. That was always the problem. Laura never understood that secrets rot people from the inside. I spent too long pretending I didn't notice. Not this time. This time, she could spiral all she wanted. I wasn't picking up the pieces anymore. By 7:15 a.m., I knew she was on the move. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Hey, sweetie, is everything okay? Laura called me crying this morning. Said something about you trying to ruin her engagement. Call me when you can." I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another text came in. This one from my cousin Angie in Ohio. Oh, why is Laura posting weird crap about you on Facebook? You good? I opened the app. There it was, right at the top of my feed. Laura Bennett. It's crazy how some people will never let go. How they'll wait in the shadows, bitter and lonely, just to pull others down. Jealousy wears many faces. Some even look like kindness. Be careful who you trust. Below that, dozens of likes. A few, you okay, girl, comments. Some heart emojis. But it didn't take long for the drama vultures to show up. Megan P. Wait, is this about who I think it is? Tara L. Can't believe people still try to control others after the relationship is over. And then, finally, the crack in the mask. Jordan M. Didn't she cheat on him, though? Q Chaos. Half the thread went up in flames. Old friends, acquaintances, Lara's yoga classmates, even a few of Nolan's buddies, all chiming in, some defending, some questioning. The story was unraveling in real time. I sat back and watched it unfold with the kind of numb detachment you get when you've already survived the worst part. Laura wasn't stupid. She knew she couldn't outright name me. That would look petty, desperate. So she went with the old victim narrative. Paint herself as the one being haunted by her bitter ex, make it sound like I was obsessed, unstable, controlling. It was a tactic I'd seen before. Years ago, when she got caught lying to a roommate about money, the story became, she's just jealous. She wanted what I had. When she hooked up with her friend's boyfriend, the explanation was, well, he came onto me. And she was toxic anyway. Every fire Laura ever lit, she always came out holding the hose, pretending to save the day. But now, people weren't buying it like they used to. My inbox pinged again. This time it was my sister. Did Laura seriously just try to throw you under the bus on Facebook? Just say the word and I'll respond with screenshots. I smiled and texted back, nah, let her bury herself. Because the thing was, Laura didn't know how to stop. And every word she posted made her look more frantic, more unstable. She was spiraling fast. This wasn't just a lashing out. It was control. She thought if she shaped the narrative fast enough, loud enough, people would ignore the facts. That Nolan might come crawling back. That I'd be too embarrassed to respond. She forgot who I was. I wasn't the quiet ex anymore. I wasn't the guy who'd roll over just to keep the peace. I was the guy who said, message received, and meant it. So I did what she feared most. I said nothing. I let her twist and turn in the storm she created. Because sometimes, the worst thing you can do to a manipulator is refuse to dance. By midday, the silence I'd been enjoying shattered with a loud ping from an unknown number. Travis B. You really think that was cool, man? You humiliate my sister and then sit back like some smug saint? Be a man and fix what you broke. I stared at the message for a second. Travis, Lara's younger brother. The same guy who once borrowed my truck for a quick errand and returned it 2 days later with an empty tank and a dent in the side. Now here he was, riding in on his digital high horse. I replied with one line. Transparency isn't revenge. She texted me. I let her fiancé know. That's not cruelty, that's honesty. No response. Figures. Travis wasn't reaching out because he believed in some code of decency. He was reaching out because the family group chat was probably on fire and Laura needed someone, anyone, to make it look like she wasn't spiraling. But the next message wasn't from him. It was from Ben. Or so I thought. Ben, via Instagram DM. You're cold, bro. She's been through a lot. You didn't have to destroy her like that. You could have handled this quietly. Like a man. A weird message. Too polished. Too emotional. I tilted my head and thought for a second. Ben? The same guy who once told me emotions are for people who still wear flip-flops unironically? I opened the profile. Something felt off. The posts were all old screenshots from yoga retreats, protein shakes, one grainy video of a handstand on a beach. Nothing new. No stories. No activity since December. I grinned. Of course. This wasn't Ben. This was Laura. Using his account to guilt-trip me with a fake voice. Probably figured I'd take the bait if it came from someone neutral. I didn't reply. Instead, I screenshotted the whole message, cropped it neatly, posted it to my story with the caption. Nothing says accountability like impersonating your ex-affair partner. Stay weird. Within 15 minutes, the reactions rolled in. Jonah, she really went there? Melissa, OMG stop, I'm howling. Trey, that's some Disney villain behavior. Carmen, bro, I just spit out my coffee. Even Nolan reacted. Just a simple laughing emoji followed by, well played. I didn't need to explain anything. The people who mattered knew what was up. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't need a campaign. It doesn't need a thread of hashtags or a sob story. It just needs a moment to be seen. And right now, Laura was overplaying every hand. Enlisting Travis, puppeteering Ben's account. It all reeked of desperation. She wasn't trying to get redemption. She was trying to get control back. But the script had flipped. I wasn't the silent ex. I wasn't the fool in the background anymore. I was the guy who saw the strings, and I had no problem pulling them out for everyone to see. It started with a complaint about noise, not from a neighbor, from the management office of my apartment complex. A neatly worded email dropped into my inbox one morning, informing me that multiple residents had raised concerns about aggressive behavior, loud late-night arguments, and hostile guests. I stared at it for a long second, confused. I hadn't had a guest over in weeks. No parties, no shouting, just me, my dog, and some old jazz records on low volume. I called the office, spoke to the property manager, Dana, who sounded sheepish. "I'm sorry, Mr. Walker. It's probably nothing," she said. "We just have to follow up when multiple reports come in. Probably a mix-up. Did they say what apartment number the noise was coming from?" I asked. A pause. "Yours. Specifically." My gut dropped. "Can you forward me the complaints?" Another pause. "They were called in anonymously, but I can check with our records department." She called back 2 hours later. All the calls came from the same number, same area code, all on different days. I didn't even need to ask. I already knew. Laura. Same signature nonsense. Cast suspicion, throw in just enough concern to seem credible, then vanish before accountability knocks. It didn't stop there. The next hit came that evening, when my friend Carly texted me a link. "Hey, you might want to see this. Something's going around." It was a Yelp review. 1 star. Posted under the name Truth Seeker 87. Completely unprofessional. Aggressive. Talks over clients. Avoid if you're looking for someone reliable or emotionally stable. Sketchy guy? Wouldn't trust him alone with animals, let alone in a marine clinic. I ran a small marine observation program out of a research space downtown. We did tagging, injury assessments, some community education. I barely interacted with the public. Most of our funding came from private grants and conservation orgs. I didn't even have Yelp listed for it. But now, suddenly, I had 3 reviews, all from brand new accounts, all posted within a 10-minute span. The wording? Familiar. Phrases Laura had thrown at me during arguments in the past. Emotionally unstable, cold, manipulative. She was trying to leave fingerprints, just not her own. But I wasn't the man she used to play chess with. I'd learned her strategy. I forwarded the reviews to our legal contact at the research center. Then I filed a report through Yelp's business portal, flagging the activity as suspicious and defamatory. Next, I documented the apartment complaints, safe call logs, timestamps, anything Dana could provide. Started building a file. Cold, clean, unshakable. I brought it to our legal team the next morning. By noon, a cease and desist had been sent to Lara's last known address. A formal warning that any further attempts to sabotage me personally or professionally would result in legal escalation. Then I took it one step further. I consulted a friend, a real estate attorney named Brandon, and asked what it would take to file for a restraining order. "You've got a paper trail," he said, flipping through the packet I'd brought. "Digital harassment, impersonation, reputational sabotage, anonymous threats. It's not just pettiness. It's targeted." He slid the folder back across the desk. "You should file." I nodded, because this wasn't just post-breakup fallout anymore. This was someone actively trying to damage my future, brick by brick, because she'd lost control of the past. That night, I drove out to the coast, sat in my truck overlooking the black water and the flickering lights offshore. I sipped coffee from a thermos and breathed in the cold, salty air. Everything felt heavier these days, but it also felt real. There was no more fog, no more pretending, no more, maybe she didn't mean it, or maybe I'm overreacting. She meant it, every bit of it, and I wasn't overreacting. I was responding, with evidence, with boundaries, with a quiet, relentless kind of power that she couldn't twist or manipulate. She tried to drag my name through the dirt, but I wasn't sinking. I was building. It was Nolan who connected the last. We hadn't spoken much in the days following the fallout, but one afternoon he called out of the blue and said, "Hey, weird question. Do you remember Ben's girlfriend, Isabel?" I paused. "The one Laura said dumped him last year?" "Yeah. Turns out they never actually broke up." My eyebrows lifted. "Seriously?" "Dead serious," he said. I reached out to him. The real Ben, not the version Laura puppeteered on Instagram. He's a mess. Said he didn't know Laura had sent that email to me. Didn't even know they were still in contact. He thought they'd hooked up once, not that she'd built a second life around him. "Damn, that's not the crazy part," Nolan continued. "Isabel found out everything. She's pissed." I wasn't sure what that meant exactly until a few days later, when Carmen, one of Isabel's friends and a mutual connection of mine through a conservation nonprofit, sent me a message. "Carmen, hey, just wanted to say thanks. for sparking the avalanche. You'll understand soon. That was vague enough to make me suspicious. But within the next 48 hours, things began to move. First came the whispers. Someone forwarded me a LinkedIn post from a boutique wellness studio in Venice. It didn't name names, but it mentioned in-house transitions and a shift in partnerships due to breaches in professional conduct. A quick look through the comments showed that Laura had recently been tagged in photos from their events. Her tag was gone. Next came the emails. One of my former colleagues from Monterey forwarded me an internal bulletin from a coastal education group Laura had consulted with last year. She'd been up for a contract to teach youth wellness seminars through their outreach program. That contract was now under reconsideration due to recent behavioral reports. And then came the confirmation. Carmen messaged me again, this time with a screenshot. Isabel, the Isabel, had quietly sent a series of emails through her private HR network. Nothing aggressive, just detailed. She included the email Laura had sent me. She attached the Yelp review timestamps. She shared metadata from Ben's old phone, messages Laura had sent pretending to be him, and she flagged it under ethical red flags in client-facing roles. See, Isabel worked in HR, not just at any company, but a rival fitness brand that often recruited instructors and influencers from Lara's circle. And Isabel had connections, not petty ones, professional ones. She didn't scream. She whispered, to the right people. By the end of the month, Lara's LinkedIn looked like a war zone. Dozens of connections gone, endorsements disappearing, recommendations revoked. Then someone leaked an internal memo. Her role at a luxury retreat company had been dissolved during strategic restructuring. It was all coded in corporate politeness, but I could read between the lines. Lara had been cut, quietly, surgically, permanently. I didn't celebrate, not outwardly. But the quiet satisfaction that settled in my chest wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. Because Laura had spent months twisting the truth, manipulating people into seeing her as a victim. And now, the truth moved faster than her lies. She couldn't gaslight her way out of a job audit. She couldn't fake DMs when the metadata exposed her. She couldn't cry her way past HR networks built on verified trust. That's the thing about accountability. It doesn't always show up with a bang. Sometimes, it arrives wearing glasses and a neutral blazer, saying, I'm going to need to verify that story before we move forward. And sometimes, the people who were watching silently were just waiting for the mask to slip. I never asked Isabel to do anything. She did it because the pattern finally reached her doorstep. And she, like me, had had enough. When predators start losing access, that's when you know the cycle is finally breaking. It was a Thursday afternoon when my phone rang again. Laura. I hadn't heard her voice since that explosive call the night Nolan left her. Part of me expected silence forever. Another part, the more realistic part, knew she couldn't stay quiet for long. Not when things were falling apart. I let it go to voicemail. She left one. Are you proud of yourself? She snapped, voice cracking. I lost everything. Nolan, my job. Half my contracts are on hold, and no one's returning my calls. I've had clients unfollow me on social media. Do you even care what you've done? You sabotaged me. You ruined my entire life. There was a pause, then a trembling inhale. I should sue you, she whispered, barely holding the thread of composure. I'm looking into it. Defamation, emotional damages, something. Anything. You don't get to just walk away like this, Alex. You don't get to ruin me and act like you're innocent. I didn't reply, because I didn't ruin her. She just finally ran out of people willing to clean up the mess. Later that evening, I got a text from Nolan. Just wanted to say thanks again. I'm doing a lot better now. Back in therapy, actually sleeping. Then another one, minutes later, from Isabel. If you're ever in LA, coffee's on me. Real coffee, not green juice. She added a winking emoji. I chuckled. It felt good to laugh again. Things got even weirder, in the best possible way, a week later, when Carmen, Isabel's friend, messaged me a vacation photo from Costa Rica. In the shot, she was lounging under a canopy, holding up a glass of sangria with her phone angled toward the sun. The caption read, to peace, to honesty, and to men who forward emails when it counts. Life has a funny way of folding back into itself. That same week, I met someone, Claire, veterinary technician, early 30s, warm smile, calm voice, zero interest in drama. She showed up during one of our dolphin tracking community outreach sessions, clipboard in hand, wearing a sun-bleached baseball cap and asking me about migratory patterns like she actually cared. We got coffee, then dinner, then more coffee. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to explain the weight of my past. She didn't ask about Lara. She didn't treat me like I was a broken thing trying to pass as whole. She just asked if I liked dogs, and old records, and rocky coastlines. I did. It was easy. And after everything, I learned to appreciate easy. A month later, Laura resurfaced again, this time in the form of a rebrand. Someone sent me a link to her new Instagram account at Mindfully Laura. A soft pink logo, yoga quotes, awkward reels of her speaking into the camera with glazed-over eyes and edited breaths. She had become a mindfulness coach. The bio read, "Healing is messy, but it's beautiful. Join me on a journey of forgiveness and growth. DM for brand partnerships, #elevate your energy." She had less than 200 followers. Most posts had under 10 likes. The comments were dry, mostly bots or ghost accounts. No Nolan, no Isabel, no Travis. Just the echo chamber she'd built to convince herself she hadn't burned it all down. I didn't block her, didn't report the account. I just closed the app, because that chapter was over. Lara's story was now hers to carry. The lies, the sabotage, the trail of people she lost on the way down. Mine was still being written. Each day in my cabin by the sea. Each call with Nolan. Each new outing with Claire. Each night I fell asleep without bracing for the next explosion. Truth doesn't shout. It settles. It waits. And when the dust clears, it builds something better in its place. So yeah, Laura was out there, still trying to control the story, still selling self-awareness like a scented candle no one wanted. But I was done reading her chapters. My story? It's quiet, honest, and finally, free.